Ayan na. Last 30 days of Duterte. Last 30 of Duterte. Alright, yun po ang meron tayo ngayon. Within a month, less than a month, maging iba na po yung ating presidente. Paalis na po si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, PRRD. Ito yung pangulo na nangako na within 3 to 6 months dapat tapos na ang krimen, medyo pa Singapore na tayo. Ayan na, 6 years na, kamusta ng Pilipinas? Ramdam nyo ba ang yung pagka-Singapore natin, guys, after 6 years of President 3 to 6 months, Duterte? Yan. Okay, mamaya na tayo magano dyan, ha? Mamaya ko na patulan yan. Okay, FYI na lang. Actually, I was thinking I want to discuss a lot of things kaso medyo ubus laway tayo. I spent almost 2 hours giving a talk sa Manila house kanina. So medyo with posh friends and people breaking down the elections, what to expect under Marcos, different scenarios, etc. Don't worry guys, ma-update yan in YouTube. You'll have a copy of that soon. Medyo may analysis tayo based on data talaga ano yung mga pwede natin ma-expect and how will the incoming administration balance different priorities, no? East versus West, fiscal consolidation versus deficit spending and infrastructure build-up, at saka of course yung illiberal revisionist policies or base for that matter versus human rights democracy base sa ating saligang batas. And let me actually start there first. Before going to Leni, I wanted to discuss actually Tulfo at yung delayed cabinet. Napaka-delayed tong cabinet na in a sense na wala pa rin yung DND and DFA. Please, meron na ba? Meron bang Department of Foreign Affairs at saka Department of National Defense? Parang wala pa, no? Magjo-June na tayo. Magjo-June na tayo, guys. Oh, wala pa. Medyo may new record na tayo. Yan tayo, eh. At meron may Solgen na tayo, di ba? Sorry, may Solgen na tayo. So, okay naman. Oo. So I thought maybe bukas ko na discuss ulit yung cabinet and Tulfo and all of that. Sorry na lang, na-signpost ko yan, but I think maubusan tayo ng laway. Tsaka may mas mahalaga tayong kailangan pag-usapan today. So, kamusta naman kayo dyan, mga kameta, kamusta kayo dyan? So, let's talk about 2 important things today, alright? First is historical revisionism, which technically speaking is actually denialism in the case of the Philippines. And number 2, Leni. Leni is back. Ayan na, papost ako. Leni. Hindi ko pa natapos. May mga trolls na dito. May mga attacks na dito. Lalagay, experiment ako. Lalagay ko ng L-A-N. Ang dami ng galit sa baba. Nagko-comment na. Alam natin. Mga abangers. Mga nag-ghosting tayo. Mga ghosting dyan. Mga ghosters. Ghosters Club. Bangers Club. Parang dumadami yung mga trolls natin over the past 2 days. Ano meron, guys? Meron, guys. Grabe yung kina-question pa yung shaving. Ayun nyo ba yung gano'n? Yung medyo may konting Batman. Ito yung tinatawag na Batman beard. Medyo shave pero hindi pa buo. Okay, let's go serious, okay? So today, if you have been following me on Twitter, where I'm quite active too, I've been responding to the issue of historical revisionism, which technically speaking is actually historical denialism. So kanina yung vlogger turned press secretary etc. ni Marcos, ni incoming President Marcos, may sinabi siyang statement. I think statement niya. Statement na martial law is a minefield by itself. Why don't we allow a discourse? Ang ganda, diba? Discourse. I think everything should be open to debate. Even scientific theories and established facts are always open to question. We don't have to come to a conclusion. Let us not limit discourse. Ayan. So on the surface, actually, this looks very interesting. Like, yes, of course, let's have an open scientific discussion. If I'm not mistaken, my former professor, Clarita Carlos, has also been talking about this. But guys, we know exactly what's going on here. This is not about having a scientific, factual discourse. Let's be very honest about it. I'll go into that soon. But there are things in life that you do not debate. Right? For instance, you do not debate whether genocide or rape and other kinds of crime are good or bad. They're bad. They're deplorable. They're wrong. In fact, in some countries, like Germany, for instance, if you question or debate the historicity, the historical occurrence, nabulol na ako, of the Holocaust, na how many people were killed, what is it, 6 million, if you do that, pwede ka makulong. This is Germany, guys. One of the most advanced democracies in the world, but they have no tolerance for hate speech, revisionism, denialism, in fact, that actually tries to downplay or denigrate, right, the victims of the horrors of Second World War, including what Hitler did, right? So you don't debate rape, genocide, those crimes. Certain things are not up for debate, especially when, let me clarify, you have incontrovertible facts. Ito, classroom, incontrovertible facts. Meaning they have been established by evidence, by archaeological evidence, by historical analysis. We have a ton of studies out there by leading scholars, institutions, peer-reviewed studies that show very clearly that we had so many violations, human rights violations, torture, among others, back in the day. That is not something that they say, oh, let's just have a discourse about. There was a dictatorship, and that dictatorship committed many, many crimes. Period. Why do you want to open up that kind of worms unless you want to suddenly whitewash things, you want to massage things, you want to make things look better, etc. So yun yung concern ng mga critics na in principle, all of us are open to debate and discussion. But if it's a discussion to actually deny, so hindi ito revisionism eh. Kasi technically speaking, revisionism in historiography means new evidence emerges. So for instance, you thought that, prehistoric, let's say Ukraine or Russia, were small towns, etc. And then there's a new archaeological evidence that showed there were huge cities in Ukraine. By the way, this is based on actual studies. If you read the book, the beginning, the dawn of everything, you'll know about this new archaeological study. So new archaeological studies come out, for instance, and then we revisit our assumptions about ancient civilizations. Ayun pala, hindi pala sila small-scale civilizations, they were grand civilizations. Or for instance, there are new archaeological discoveries in China that show artifacts that show Caucasian-looking people or Eurasian-looking people, or like Kazakhstan, ganun-looking people, etc., which show that ancient China, pre-Shah, whatever, actually had a lot of interaction with Eurasian tribes and other civilizations. It's not true that China developed in isolation. You know what I'm saying? That's called revisionist. I mean, you can have a revised version of history based on new archaeological studies. But you deny the crimes of the past by mumbo-jumbo fake news and blah, 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 and bayaran bloggers and all of that. That is not revisionism. That's denialism. And what we're talking about here is incontrovertible facts established by peer review, established by careful studies year after year after year after year, right? So as I said, if you are in Germany, for instance, you deny the Holocaust, you try to discourse your way through it, you're going to be in trouble. In France, Armenian genocide, if you deny it, you're going to be in trouble. So whitewashing is not debate. It's a political strategy to downplay accountability, to expunge accountability. And it's an insult to the victims, and a lot of them are still alive, and they are actually supposed to be, based on law, receive compensation for the violations and human rights violations and torture and etc. that happened in the past. So this is historical denialism. It is not revisionism, technically speaking, because revisionism means you have an incontrovertible new evidence that casts a new light on a prior set of assumptions. So I gave you, for instance, archaeological studies showing that, for instance, in prehistoric Ukraine or ancient Ukraine, blah blah blah, etc. Right? That is, so you have a new archaeological evidence that shows. But in this case, guys, we're talking about not 3, 4, 5,000 years. We're talking about what happened 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we're talking about, in this case, incontrovertible facts, peer-reviewed. Now, if some of our good friends who love to do debate and all, if you have a single high-impact journal article, peer-reviewed studies, that you want to bring out and show us that provides an alternative point of view, go ahead. But last time I checked, zero. Yung mga... Ito yung nakakatuwa eh. Yabang-yabang yung mga iba dyan. Yung mga ano namin, napakatalino. And then, pag-check mo yung Google Scholar, halos zero relevant publication. Right? Zero. Right? And then, meron pa yung ibang bloggers dyan. Alam na this. Kino-question na kailangan ng citation and references. Tapos kung sabihin mo kailangan citation references, ay dilawan ka. Ganun. Like, wow, since when dilawan ang magiging scholarly and having citation and references? So please lang, guys. Please lang. Let's be very clear about it. We are all good for debate and discourse, but based on facts. But denying facts, muddying the waters, whitewashing that, insulting the victims, trying to come up with a distorted version of history so that you escape accountability, so that you romanticize the past, a dark past, that is not debate in a scholarly and a proper way. That's something else. That's something more questionable. And as I said, in some countries, you can go to jail for actually questioning relatively contemporary or what happened in recent history, modern history, as far as crimes, massive crimes are concerned. You cannot deny Holocaust. If you go to Germany and do that, you'll be in trouble. And Germany is an advanced, mature democracy. Because if you do that, you're denying the accountability of the Nazi regime. You're also denying, the due respect and recognition that the victims of Holocaust deserve, right? In the same vein, we're not saying we had Hitler, etc., but in the same way, when dictatorships commit crime, trying to play your way around that as an insult to our victims and it's insult to our historical memory, etc. Now, that doesn't mean that let's also forget about shortcomings of those who came after dictatorship. Ibang usapan po yan. But at the same time, let's not muddy the waters here and whitewash it in the name of debate and all. And if you have, my good friends, if you have peer-reviewed, serious studies, high-impact journal, peer-reviewed, ibig sabihin, hindi lang sinishare ng mga bayaran na vloggers o mga trolls. Yung actually studied by other top historians and scholars, archaeologists, whatever, anthropologists, whatever. And then they all agree on it. Then you come with the final draft. It goes through multiple review process. Then it come out on an academic journal. And then also, even after publications, there's also a process of response and review by other scholars. If it went through that process, then let's talk about it. As far as I know, there's zero truly revisionist, high-impact, peer-reviewed, alternative evidence, right? All I see are just social media posts by influencers and revisionist, blah, blah, blah people. But as I again said, they're denialists. This is denialism. It is not revisionism, to be technically specific about this, all right? So, just to be clear, I am all ears to the good things that could happen under the next administration. I've been even accused by some ignoramus there that I'm being apologist or whatever. Like, what are you talking about? Gawit kan. But, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, let me use a better term. Let's say misguided friends of ours. Okay. Ayan tayo. Okay. Let's be polite. Okay. Some misguided friends of ours have been misconstruing what I've been saying, diba? We're not being apologized. We're giving a chance and see, on a case-to-case basis. At the same time, no, you're not gonna mumbo-jumbo your way with incontrovertible facts. At yun din naging kakulangan kasi ng mga sumunod na administration. Di sana kung maayos yung basic education natin, may rule of law, etc., hindi tayo na sa ganitong problema. So we're also paying a price for that. Okay? Now, and this brings me really to the second part of our discussion today. And I'll try to keep this short. I mean, ubusan na tayo dyan. All right. Which is Leni has returned. Okay? So, I haven't seen her Balenciaga, ayan, joke lang kayo guys. Hindi ko nakita yung Balenciaga bag and all of that pagbalik. But it seems our vice president took a good rest. So, longest vacation, sabi niya. Kalma lang. So, she took her longest rest. Wala pa kasamang bakasyon, okay? Stress na stress ako. Dahil, pagkatapos ng election, wala akong ginawa kundi magbigay ng mga speeches to kind of give people hope. You know what I'm saying? Naging motivational speaker na ako eh. Para na akong therapist na ngayon eh. I mean, I'm giving political analysis that people have hope, right? Parang, so tuloy na misconstrue tayo as apologists or whatever. Parang kamusta naman sa mga tao dyan, di ba? Huwag naman tayo bastusan, guys. Tayo naman, di ba? So, ayan, so kalma lang. So nakabalik po si Ma'am Leni, Vice President, duly elected Vice President Leni Robredo, as we transition to our incoming duly elected Vice President Sara Duterte and incoming duly elected President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Okay, fair lang tayo. Now, so she had her good rest. I think she definitely deserves that. It was very stressful. I'm sure she had a lot of deep thinking. I'm sure dun sa New York, she had maybe time to go to museums or certain places to have a proper assessment, going back to the drawing board, have proper, let's just put it this way, retrospective, spiritual, assessment of things. Soul searching, kumbaga. So I think she had a week or so. So I hope she made the most out of that. I think everyone deserves a break. I do that too soon. Gusto ko na umuwi sa Baguio, or at least bago ako mag-abroad ulit and I'll get back on track, literally. And so ang statement ng vice presidential spokesman si Barry Gutierrez is that mukhang at peace na si Leni Robredo with the results. More or less, I think that means there is a concession. There was no concession speech, pero parang yan ang the closest we get to concession. Wala naman challenge from Makalintal and others dun sa canvassing, right? Of yung official final results. So Leni is back, and the promise here is that they'll be back and they will be stronger. Maybe they'll be leaner and meaner even, right? After this. So actually, the recent statement is that Leni Robredo will cease being the Liberal Party chairperson after her vice presidency term ends. I was wondering why is she even still a chairperson of Liberal Party. Kaya nga nag-pink, diba? So Vice President Leni Robredo will automatically cease being the chairperson of the formerly ruling Liberal Party. Ano to? Tama. I'm just making sure kung hindi error to. And then Party President Kiko Pangilinan and her spokesman Barry Gutierrez, ito yung clarification nila. So, the moment that her term ends, she will automatically stop being chairperson of the Liberal Party. That's clear. So, yun yung sinabi ni Barry Gutierrez, spokesman of Leni Robredo's kaibigan natin si Karen Davila. Former Representative Bagilat, who serves as LP's Vice President for Internal Affairs, siya po yung mag-remain as party's he'll remain there, likely. Pero sabi niya, wala pang decision on who will be the next party chair. Wala na yata gusto mag-party chair ng Liberal Party, Nako po. Baka si Trillanes gusto niya. I don't know who is gonna take it over. So, sabi nga ni Bagilat, yung Vice President of LP, it's going to be a party decision after consulting with her, but LP officers' terms are not tied with their incumbency. Alright, unlike in her case. But ayon kay Gutierrez, Robredo will no longer be chairperson of the LP by June 30. So ayon sa kanya, my understanding is that the party chair is the highest ranking elected official. On June 30, she will no longer be an elected official, so she will no longer be chair. So I don't know sino bang maging highest ranking. Isa lang naman yung senator, and Riza Ontiveros is not Liberal Party. I mean, she's Akbayan, right? So let's see what they're gonna do about it. So may plano naman ang opposition moving forward that they'll try to stick around. So ang pangako nila dito is they'll emerge new, fresh, bigger, and stronger than ever. Ito yung pangako nila, no? So ayon kay Barry Gutierrez, so definitely moving forward, it's possible that some new movement bigger than any individual party will emerge. So it's going to be a coalition. It's going to be a movement. It's not going to be just about Liberal Party. It's going to be more than that. And that's what the Vice President has inspired in the last 7 months, and we look forward to seeing that continue even after June 30 or until the expiration of her term, right? So ayon sa kanya, when he was asked whether Pink Movement moves forward without LP, will there be an LP-less, Liberal Party-less Pink Movement? Ang sinabi niya, that's a possibility. But even during the campaign, the people came out and became part of what is now called the Pink Movement. Many of them were not affiliated at all with the Liberal Party. Many, in fact, were ordinary citizens who just felt the call to participate in what they felt was historic and important election. Ito po yung tinatawag ko na pure rosas. Ito yung mga rosas na ayaw sa Liberal Party, ayaw sa whole yellow movement, And they want something totally new. They had concerns with Marcos. They wanted Leni for herself. They wanted Robredo, but they didn't want the whole Liberal Party and all of that, right? So, yun nga eh. So, mukhang that will be the way forward. So, let me reiterate some key points on this eh. Kasi, there are some people who are saying, ayan, shoutout naman dyan kay cousin natin, Marco. Okay, Marco, kasi malapit pa nga naman cousin kay Marcos, so mamaya ka na dapat kasi si Leni ang pinag-usapan. Mahirap na. Okay, alright, kamusta dyan? Buenos dias. So, going back here guys, ito So, if you look at Leni, I will argue that Leni has a political future on the national level. Number one, so 3 reasons. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why Leni has a future, right? Still in national politics. And in my opinion, she has to, dapat sumabak siya sa politika at tumakbo siya bilang probably senador in few years time if tuloy pa rin yung constitution natin, elections and everything like that, right? Ceteris paribus, guys. Ito, ceteris paribus. You have to learn that term. It means all things held constant. Kung walang crazy thing mangyari, she should, I think, run for the Senate. And she should have a voice in the Senate para hindi lang mag-isa si Riza Ontiveros dyan. Kawawa naman siya. Diba? Okay. So, 3 reasons. Reason number 1, upward trajectory actually in her vote. She got barely 14 million votes in 2016. She got almost 15 million votes in 2022. Why does that matter? To put that into context, Vice President Binay, what? He got how many votes? Check natin Parang 10 million lang yata or something like that, diba? Nung tumakbo siyang Vice President. Lagay natin. Sorry, I want to be very precise about this. So if makikita nyo, habang si Leni actually umakyat yung numbers niya. And remember, running for presidency is even more difficult than running for vice presidency. Mas mahirap po siya. Dahil ito talaga yung number 1 job eh. Hindi yung spare tire, but the number 1 job. So she actually got even more votes running for a higher office. Now, obviously I understand. You'll say, well, the number of voters increased, etc., etc. But considering all the fake news, disinformation, all of the attacks against Leni, all of the isolation, all of the kabastusan, all of the splice videos, all of the nasty fake news stuff thrown at her, right? And inexplicable silence of her camp for quite some time, right? Until later on. Nevertheless, she actually expanded her numbers. Now, to get a kind of an idea why that's important, you have to put it into perspective. So that's why I would look at an analog or a precedent and look at the case of Binay. So in 2010, when he ran for the vice presidency, right? He got almost 10 million votes, right? And then look at Binay when he ran for what? Ito. He got, he got 14 million votes, not 10. So he got, so 2010 vice presidential elections, Binay, because remember, Binay is the previous VP who also ran for the presidency, 2010 to 2016, and then Leni from 2016 to 2022, right? So he got 14,645,000 votes, popular vote. Ang dami niyang vote, That's laki niya. Now, go to 2016 elections. Look at how many votes he got as a presidential candidate, right? Yeah, I just have to be precise with the numbers, guys, no? Kasi hindi naman tayo marites dito. He got 5,416,140. So almost 1/3, right? Almost 1/3. From around 14, 15 million, he got only 5 million when he ran for presidency. And Binay, although he was doing fine in surveys, couldn't even make it to Senate when he ran this time. Hindi, barely top 15. Now, if you look at Leni, her number actually went higher. In spite of everything. You see, the isolation that Binay faced during Aquino era is incomparable to the isolation and pressure and denigration and attack and everything that Leni faced when she was the vice president of President Duterte. And unlike Binay, her mandate was questioned up until now. The Marcos camp did not accept their loss in 2016. And then Duterte camp did not also like her because of her attack on the war on drugs. Management of the war on drugs. Wala siyang problema sa war on drugs per se, but yung bara-bara style, she questioned that. And not to mention, there was always an idea that maybe they will try to bring us down and pull off an etc. So, in spite of everything that Leni had to go through, she actually increased their numbers from 2016 to 2022, running for even a higher office. And then you look at Binay, he was more than 14 million, he was almost 15 million votes in 2010. He barely gets 5 million votes when he runs for presidency in 2016. You get what I'm saying here? So, and Binay was top 15 for Senate, and according to service, he should have been top 12. So I think Leni has a good chance of becoming the next senator at least, right? If she runs. And of course, for her supporters, that shouldn't be the end-all be-all, but I think it could go way beyond that. And then number two thing you have to keep in mind, right? The number two thing you have to keep in sorry, medyo, pagod na ako. Dami natin sinabi. The other thing we have to keep in mind is also this, yung pink movement, guys. You know, she has a movement that Binay, none of these people had in the past, right? And with the show of force by pink movement, and considering pink movement is so young, it's just 7 months old, and even sila ba rin, aminado sila, marami dyan sa pink movement na hindi ayaw sa, not necessarily supporter of Liberal Party, etc. So it's a toddler Bibo movement, only 7 months old. So kung masustain ito, I think something really good and great can come out of it in terms of balance. Kasi guys, hindi naman tayo pwede magkaroon ng tamang, to have a proper democracy, you have to have some sort of equilibrium, some sort of yin and yang. Kung walang opposition, napakahinang opposition, talaga dyan na nagkakaroon ng problema right? So this is the second thing we have to keep in mind, guys. Now, if you look at actually the case here, right? She has a strong movement behind her, but she knows she needs to show leadership even after this 2022 elections, and has to show them the way forward. That's what leadership is all about. You have to show the way forward even in the darkest hour. That is what leadership is all about. So let's see what she's gonna do about that. No, ayan na, nagtutroll na yung iba sa akin. And of course, the last thing is, at least we're seeing some embers or some indications that there's some proper introspection about what went wrong, what were the shortcomings. And as I said, to just blame it all on disinformation and all misses the point. Disinformation is just scratching the surface if you're just going to make your argument. Disinformation doesn't work if you have strong educational institutions, you have a proper regulation of social media space, if people are not so fed up with dysfunctional democracy, if your economy is not dominated by few people, if your Congress is not dominated by few dynasties, if people are invested in democracy and they're educated, they're trained, they're supported, they're energized, and if you have an inspiring leadership with good strategy, etc., then so be it, diba? And in the case of Leni, she has support of many top-level A-list celebrities, etc., who can play a role in terms of turning this movement into something special. Sangayon ako kay Randy David, kay Tony Lavinia, a lot of our good friends in our discussion we have been having in media in recent days. Dapat talaga hindi umaasa ang tao sa mga pamilya lang, mga political dynasties lang, para magkakaroon ng tunay na pagbabago at magandang pagbabago. Dapat umaasa tayo sa sarili natin. Dapat umaasa tayo sa mga kilusan. Kilusan para sa tunay at magandang pagbabago. Ang problema sa ating politika, guys, is mga kameta, is that parating tayong umaasa. O, ikaw may sarili kang dynasty, ako may sariling dynasty, ikaw may... You know what I'm saying? Tapos wala tayong totoong partido. So talagang kailangan natin tamang kilusan, yung malakas na kilusan, at yung mga tao talaga na dedicated to push for reforms. Hindi lang sa presidente, but on all levels of government, right? And soon, guys, we may have a serious discussion on constitutional change. Kailangan na mayroon tayong kilusan para siguraduhin na yung push for constitutional change is not a Trojan horse for creating another authoritarian rule, or a Trojan horse by political dynasties and all to take out PCGG and take out CHR and take out institutional checks and balances, or defang them and weaken them and create what political scientists we call it hybrid regimes. On the surface, it's democracy, but that's a facade. On the surface, there's media, but it's actually controlled by the oligarchs of the government or friendly to the governments, etc., right? The guy who's a master of that was Putin 20 years ago. Now, the latest master of that is Viktor Orban of Hungary. And some would even say Erdogan of Turkey, right? So on and so forth. Some would even say Modi of India is kind of moving in that direction. So those are the things that you have to keep in mind, guys. No? So if you look at Leni, I think she has shown her ability to not only survive the darkest hour, but actually be resilient. But resilience alone is not enough. You have to up the game. You have to cascade. You have to evolve. So she showed she can survive. She showed she can be resilient. But the next step for the opposition is to go up and to cascade, to change their strategy, to get a better team, better communications, better narrative, to reach out dun sa majority ng mga Pilipino. Di ba? Pinakita ko sa inyong surveys, majority are democratically ambivalent. They're skeptical. You have to convince them the back and make them feel that democracy can work. But you have to also show that you have competent leaders, good policies, to forward. And that's why kailangan din ng kilusan. Kasi kung nakita ng tao na may malaking kilusan at maayos yung mga tao dyan, hindi mata pobre, you know what I'm saying? May kakayahan, may compassion, relatable, medyo nagmemeta, medyo nag-zadi, ganon, mga ganon, medyo mahilig sa Real Madrid, Los Blancos, ganon. Then maybe people will get interested and excited and say, maybe, let's see, baka iba to, di ba? Pero kung repackage lang gagawin mo, if you want to fight the fights as if you fought it 20 years, 30 years, 6 years ago, awanin, agawit tayon. Awanin. Alright? So thank you very much guys for that. I'll keep it there. So, I know, magpapahinga na kayo. Thank you about that. Ayan na yung mga trolls ko ha. Red na red ha. Red na red. And, and there's Vico there, there's Risa there, there's so many other progressive leaders out there. Hindi lang naman si Leni, di ba? So you have to look at also those other characters, those figures, political figures and all, and how they could show the way forward. So, kaya maraming salamat talaga, guys. Thank you kay Chris for your stars and support. Thank you for your star and support. I mean, guys, you get what I'm saying here, no? You get what I'm saying. Like, parang, perhaps, I'm not saying we needed this, but what I'm saying is that sometimes these kinds of shocks, although to me was completely not... I mean, anyone who read my book, Rise of Duterte, would have been totally unsurprised with what happened. But sometimes you need shock for people to reassess their basic assumptions and live their life in a better way, to upgrade their system, to upgrade their software, right? Kahit yung kabila mo ay Xiaomi and Oppo, if iPhone 1 ka pa rin, talo ka pa rin nila, mas maganda pa rin yung camera nila, mas mabilis pa rin yung processor nila, alright? So you have to upgrade, hindi pwede iPhone 1 ka lang forever dahil Apple kaya at mayabang kaya, di ba? Hindi naman pwede yan, you have to level up, alright? So yan, thank you very much guys for your comments. Ayan, may mga tanong kayo, thank you kay Christina, for your support. Yan, si Chris, sinabi ko na si Chris, sino pa ba? Ayan na yung mga kaibigan natin dyan, mga alamano. Mga kamusta kayo dyan? Ayan tayo Ayan tayo, wait lang. Medyo mainit na. Oo. Ano na? Mahalang aircon hindi ka pa nilakasan masyado. Ayan, thank you pala dyan sa mga friends natin from Starbucks, friends natin from other sponsors na hindi pa dumating yung produkto. Ayan tayo Irma, Fanny, thank you for your support. Kay Cheth, kay Asnaira, correct. Kay Katrina, yan. Thank you. Si Chris, pag ganun na si Chris ngayon, support. Yan. Ba't parang dumadami mga trolls ko ngayon, no? Bakit kaya? Mabait naman ako di ba? Wala naman tayong ginagawa Sasalita lang po tayo dyan. Natatawa talaga yung mga attack ng trolls. Parang, hello, hindi ako campaign. Kung nakinig lang sa akin yung ibang camp, hindi ganun sanang ayoko na magsalita. No comment na ako. Ayan na. Thank you kay Jessica. Ayan. Slay your dragons, sabi ni Vida. Yeah, slay your dragons. Have your own fuego. So when the dragon comes, you do your own fuego. And this is the dragon. Wow, iba. Ganon. Yan. Thank you kay Lourdes. Kay Francois. Si Krisa. Supportive yan si Krisa. Mananangkil. Very, very supportive. Kailan ng final exams natin? Ano na lang? After inauguration ni Marcos, mag-final exam tayo. Mga tanong natin dyan, kamusta yung, who do you think was the designer of Imelda Marcos clothes? Which Tiffany & Co. branch do you think they got their, mga ganun yung mga tanong natin dyan. Mga trivia tayo. Reese, thank you very much kay Reese, kay Rina, kay Yasmin. Nasaan yung Leni na LNY, yung mga sumusuporta sa atin dyan? Ayan. Saan na yung mga natin dyan? Mga Alamano friends. Yan. Okay? Yun. Basta keep in mind, guys. Irene, Madet, Dian, Sabi ko nga, opposition really needs ethical realism. Realistic about the lay of the land politically, but ethical in terms of not forgetting the need to advocate for good values and good change, even under the toughest circumstances. That is ethical realism. Oh my goodness, I think. So, kakaganyan ko. Okay. Love ko pa naman to. Okay. Yeah. Ayan tayo eh. Ayan. Wala kayong tanong dyan? Ayan, yung mga nagtanong dyan. Sorry, alam ko nagtatrabaho yung iba sa inyo eh. So, I hope I'm not distracting you. Or if I'm distracting you, it's a good way. Oh, el fuego, fuego el profesore. Ayan, parang ano na tayo eh. Ayan tayo eh. Oo, alam ko na yung iBugs ko, I know. But I still have work, guys. So I have to work. At least na-reschedule. Mag-interview sana kami ni Pia Hontiveros ngayon, pero na-reschedule natin. So at least I can get some rest and focus on other work. And then, hopefully, mas fresh tayo doon sa mga susunod natin na meta. Yeah. Ethical realism. Wow, wala kayong tanong, ha? Wow, ang babait nyo ngayon, ha? Walang tanong, wala nang stars. Ganyan lang pala tayo, eh. Hoy, El Sam, kanina ka ba nag-troll, ha? Mabait na ako ngayon, ha? Okay? Umayos ka. Last warning ko na sa'yo yun. Red na red ka pa naman dyan. Stand out ka talaga dito. Umayos ka, ha? Block kita. Pahabol ko pa sa yung ano ko. Volunteer army ko. Ayan, joke lang. Yan. Thank you kay Dalisay. Yan. Thank you very much. Grabe, oh. Show us your biceps. Ano bicep? Triceps. Flex. Sana yung mga susunod na press con, hindi na masakit sa biceps ko, di ba? Nakakazadi kasi yung mga, minsan yung mga press con, parang eto na naman. Okay na sana, tapos may bloopers na naman eh. Tapos kung ipo-point out mo, sila pang galit sa'yo. Walang yan ang problem, gaslighting eh. Gaslighting, oh, ito classroom, di ba yung gaslighting? Parang ikaw pang mali. Parang ipo-point out mo yung mali, tapos sisisin pa sa'yo. Bakit? Kayo lang ba perfect? Bakit? Ikaw ganun, like, walang yan. Nagsalita lang ako pa yung masama. Sige, ako na mali. Sige na, ako na. Siya na lahat. Yan ang problema sa atin, yung gaslighting eh. Alright, yan. Na-late na ako, sabi ni Bri. Demanding nyo. Yan mag-recap na tayo. So today we discussed a number of things, right? So una-una, classroom. It's not historical revisionism, it's historical denialism, right? You're denying crimes that have been established by multiple longitudinal, all sorts of studies, right? Archaeological, historical studies, right? You don't debate crimes. Crimes are bad. They're wrong. Now, and these facts are not just any facts. They're incontrovertible facts. We're not talking about ancient history. We're talking about what happened 40, 50 years ago. So I have nothing against debate per se, real debate and all, but based on incontrovertible facts, not based on fake news, not based on mumbo-jumbo stuff, all right? So, yun ang problema natin dito. Pangalawa, as I said, and in the same way I'm saying what happened wrong in the past doesn't mean I'll just automatically say it will happen again in the future. As I said, we're open to see what will the next administration do despite all the background, etc. So, wag sana pilitin, no? I mean, you got lucky, sabi nga ni Aimee, we got a second chance, be grateful for it, so don't press it. Don't press your luck too much, all right? Do your job well and let's see from there. And then on Leni, this is what we discussed. Number one, the good thing in the case of Leni is that, yes, she lost, but actually she increased the number of votes that she got from 2016 to 2022. Now, to see the relevance of that, look at the numbers of B9. They went down from almost 15 million to barely over 5 million, right? So she has an upward trajectory, even though under the most difficult circumstances. The second thing actually I want to say is this. Compared to Marojas, who got under 10 million votes, she got 15 million votes. So she increased the number of votes for the opposition by 50%, which is way more than the increase in the number of eligible voters, right? Okay, so that also means that actually she was a more effective opposition leader than the previous one. Or, more effective liberal leader than the previous one. And the third, the pink movement has strong foundations, has shown so much potential in such a short period of time. And you have celebrities, youth, Legion of Volunteers, all of them can be mobilized. And tama naman sinabi ni Barry Gutierrez, hindi lang dapat umaasa yung isang kilusan sa isang tao, sa isang partido. It has to go way beyond that. And we should stop just stop it. Stop it. No, we should stop thinking that democracy is only about elections. We should also stop waiting for others to save us, for some dynasty to save us, for some political... No, we should do it ourselves. At dyan papasok yung kilusan. Dyan papasok yung activism. Not yung away-away, but the proper responsible citizenship, right? And contributing to good change, supporting good reforms by any administration, and pushing back against abuses by any administration, right? So you're doing it for the national interest, not for any party or for any individual or some myopic point of view. Alright? Alright, I'll keep it there. Thank you very much, guys. Magpahinga na tayo. Ano na naman yung sinasabi ng mga iba dyan? Ayan na naman, nagtatroll na naman yung iba dyan, ha? Hindi yan madi-DQ. Tapos na, presidente na. Who will dare to go against 31 million votes? Eh, dapat kung DQ, noon pa din yung DQ yan. Nung COMELEC time pa, eh. Umasa kayo dyan. Ito na naman mga kababalag. Parang Google Trends na naman yung analysis nyo, ha? Pang Google Trends na naman yan. Mga walang kwentang ek na naman yan. Please, guys, yung mga trashy conspiracy theory niyan, itapon niya yan. Junk food yan. Yung mga... Tapos na, president na yan, good luck with getting him out by disqualification. It's not gonna happen. Okay? Alright. Alright. Thank you very much. Talk to you guys more soon. And please continue to support us. And yung mga hindi grabe naman yung... Oy guys, be nice to to trolls. Huwag din naawain masyado. Kick out nyo lang, mamaya i-block na natin. Ang problema kasi minsan, hindi lumalabas dun sa comments afterwards ng mga troll, na-filter out sila eh. Pero sige, next time memorize ko yung name nyo. Ginagawa ko dati, minimemorize ko yung name, tapos pupunta ako, tapos i-block ko sila.